What's up, guys? I'm Maddie Wills, back with another episode of Be Well with Maddie Wills, of course, brought to you by the fine folks at MetroHealth, where each episode we talk to a different healthcare expert about a variety of topics. Today we have my good friend Dr. Eric Berko in, and first and foremost, thanks for taking some time out of your busy schedule to talk with us. We know you guys have really important jobs, so we really appreciate your time.
Happy to be here.
Absolutely. So before we get started, and of course today's topic is, what are you afraid of? Before we dive into those questions, give our listeners and viewers just a little bit about your journey through Metro, what your role is here, and how you got here.
Yeah. So I'm a psychologist. I've been at Metro for about 20 years. I started because they asked me to be the behavioral science educator in the Department of Family Medicine. So that's a requirement for family medicine for them to learn about psychology, good communication skills, treatment of mental health disorders. So I started doing that 20 years ago. And then we created this integrated care clinic where we do some pretty innovative work that we are immediately available in primary care clinics if someone's having a mental health issue. So we work side by side with the primary care docs to take care of our patients.
Perfect. So again, in other words, you're a perfect person to talk about today's topic for our loyal listeners and fans. So let's just jump right into it, okay? Let's talk about fears and phobias, which I'll admit, I didn't think there was that much of a difference before I started researching today's episode, but aren't they the same thing? And how can you tell the difference between the two?
That's a really good question. I will say that I think as a general society, we've almost over-pathologized everything.
Right.
So we label things when there are normal, natural fears. And it's an important, baked-in part of human nature. We need to be afraid because we need to survive. So if you and I were out in the woods tonight and we didn't have food, we didn't have water, we better be afraid. There's a part of our brain called the amygdala that fires and sends this hormonal rush through our body that we all know, that feeling of fear, like if someone cuts you off in traffic and your heart's pounding and your palms are sweating, that's a normal, natural reaction. And it usually compels us to do something good. So if we were out in the woods, if we hear noises, we may pick up a stick and figure out how we're going to defend ourselves.
Right.
Or we may say it's getting dark, we should probably build a fire. Or we may want to store up food, right? So these are good, important things. So fear is a natural, baked-in part of human nature, and it's normal to be afraid of things that are scary, like spiders, like heights, like strange situations that we don't know the map of.
Right.
So that's fear.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely, yeah. It's also the first time I've ever heard that we need fear, but the way you contextualize it makes perfect sense. Yeah.
There's literally the most important part of our reptilian basic brain is that amygdala, which is the fear center in our brain. It's in all of us and all of the animals, everywhere.
Right. So what are the signs and symptoms of anxiety when it comes to fears and phobias?
Yeah. So those basic physical responses, your heart pounds, your palms sweat. You may feel like you have to take a nervous pee. Some people say, I was so scared I blanked my pants.
Right.
All part of that. So what's happening is there's this thing called fight, flight, or freeze. And so our body's preparing for that. So the blood goes away from the extremities. That's why your palms get sweaty, you get a little shaky, and your hands get cold, your feet get cold. That's all part of it because the blood is rushing to the large muscles in the arms and the legs. Wow. So you can fight or you can run. Basic survival stuff. And sometimes nature requires us to freeze. The best thing to do is to do nothing. So fight, flight, or freeze. And those physical responses are part of the natural, normal fear response.
Definitely heard fight or flight. I haven't heard the freeze aspect probably ever, honestly, until right now. So I didn't even know that was a part of the equation. I'll backtrack just a bit. I know we deep dove into fear, but what would be your deep dive into phobias?
Yeah, so the phobia, that's the crossover that there's a clinical condition. There's something that is beyond just the normal fears, but it's interfering with your daily function. That's the big difference. On every one of the mental health diagnoses, the final criteria for all of them is impairment of social or occupational functioning. So the phobia is maybe a fear of spiders, and that phobia then causes you to not go out. You're afraid to interact with friends. You're afraid to go into the basement, and you have to do your laundry. And you haven't done your laundry in 6 months because you're not going down the basement because you swear there's a spider down there and it's going to kill you.
Right.
The same thing with a fear of heights, right? It's normal. Most of us, I don't like heights very much.
Same.
I've been working on this for a long time. I go to high places and I sit there for a long time until my body calms down and I realize I'm not actually going to fall and die.
Right.
But the phobia would be that I maybe reroute my entire drive and I'm not going across the bridge because I'm afraid that I'm somehow going to fall off the bridge. So it impairs my daily social or occupational functioning. That's when it becomes a phobia.
And obviously, so phobias are maybe the next step of a fear, or kind of the extreme of when you are fearful of something. Is that a good way to categorize it?
That's a great way to categorize it. And then the thing that happens is that we start to avoid, right? We start to avoid things. People develop what's called agoraphobia. Agora, open spaces, fear of open spaces. We get stuck in our houses. I have patients who are literally stuck in their houses. COVID was something that we all experienced. For some people, they're still dealing with the isolation because they became so afraid of the outside world that there are germs, there's badness. And we were told, don't go out, stay away, don't be around people, be careful, wash your hands, don't breathe any air that other people have breathed. And so what happened to some people is their world got smaller and smaller. You avoid that feared stimulus, and the avoidance gets bigger and bigger and bigger to the point that you create a safe space. And that safe space may be at home. For some people, it's their couch. And they're afraid that something bad will happen if they get off their couch, if they get out of their home. And so they won't go to doctor's appointments. They won't interact with the outside world. They won't go to church or other places that they love to do. As you can see, again, that impairs their daily life. That's when we need to do something.
So the next time my wife says that she wants me to kill that spider, I'll just tell her to get over her fear because it's not a phobia. She can get over it.
I am not causing problems in your marital home.
So sticking with phobias, how do they grow into patterns that could interfere with our daily life?
Like I said, it kind of goes in this progressive way where we may start to avoid small things. I don't know if you've ever had a panic attack. You ever had a panic attack?
I don't think so.
I'm not asking you to reveal your... I've had panic attacks.
Right.
They're awful.
Yeah.
And so you feel like you can't catch your breath. It's that whole fear response, that fight or flight response. And so then you start to fear the potential of that happening. And so you avoid things, whether it's, if for the agoraphobia example, it may start that you had a panic attack and you were out shopping. And so then you've connected the shopping with that fear response, with that panic response. And then you start avoiding shopping. And someone else does it for you. You know, you've got a nice partner or someone in your life, a sibling who does your shopping for you.
Right.
So you feel better about it. But then maybe you start avoiding going to church or your place of worship. And maybe for a while you can go, but you sit in the back, in the corner where you know you have escape, you can get out, but then you stop going there. And then maybe you loved going to ball games. You stop going to the ball games because you're afraid. I'm around, how am I going to escape? How am I going to get away? So your world gets progressively smaller and smaller and smaller. And if you don't approach that, if you don't get yourself to do the thing that you're afraid of doing, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger.
So with that, what are some ways we can manage our fears and phobias on our own?
So Dr. Barlow, Dave Barlow, did the foundational research about all these anxieties and panics. And if you boil that literature down to one simple thing, it's what your grandmother would have told you.
What is?
Do it.
Wow.
Just do it.
Makes sense.
The fancy term is exposure with response prevention. So that's the treatment of choice for any of these anxiety disorders. You have to expose yourself to the feared situation and prevent that response, that avoidance response. So some of these things can be kind of dramatic, like people who have phobias of germs and develop obsessive compulsive disorder, and they wash their hands all day and they're afraid. So this may seem like a radical exposure, but you may have them rub a public toilet seat.
Oh, my wife would never do that.
And then
She's a
have to
hand
sit
washer.
there. She would not be happy. But what you do is you realize, okay, my hands haven't fallen off.
Right.
I didn't get some horrible disease. You expose yourself. Now, not usually as dramatically as that. You may do it progressively, something small first, like you touch a door handle and don't wash your hands. And then you get progressively dirtier and dirtier until the point where you've exposed yourself enough you're no longer afraid of that situation.
That makes sense in my mind, but I can also see a person having some trouble dealing with that on their own, though, depending on obviously how severe their fear or their phobia actually is. So when should someone seek professional help for their fears and phobias, and what does that help actually look like?
Yeah, that's such a good question. There are a lot of things that we do feel like we can handle on our own. And people may experiment themselves a little bit, trying to push themselves out there. If they're not able to do it themselves, then the best thing to do is start with your primary care doctor. Because there's a lot of things that can look like anxiety and fear, but they're medical problems. There are things that can change with our hormones. There are things with our blood pressure and our blood sugar. There can be changes in our brain, our vascular structure. So the first thing is to get a good medical checkup and make sure physically we're healthy. Like we were talking about here at Metro, one of the nice things is that in most of the primary care settings, we're available right in clinic. So if you see your doc, they do the rule outs for the medical issues. They'll get you in touch with us right away through the primary care clinic, and they'll get you connected with a psychologist or a counselor right there. And then we can talk with you about what's going on and come up with a plan.
I mention this all the time. One of the reasons I fell in love with the partnership we have with Metro is their attention to care on the mental or behavioral health side of things, and just the access that they have. And then even before my former doctor, Marcus Germany, switched his role or whatever he's doing now, he picked up on something that was going on with me from a mental or behavioral health standpoint, our very first interaction. And that was in the midst of us doing this, but it was like a kind of like an aha moment for me, just saying like, I look for little signs just in regular life, like, okay, I'm on the right track, or maybe this is where I'm supposed to be in this moment. And that was one of those signs for me. So it makes it easier, and it makes me more excited to speak with the other health professionals within MetroHealth's kind of sphere because of that particular care that you guys offer. It really is unique, in my opinion, especially from a person who didn't love going to the doctor all the time. He made it a little bit easier for me. Yeah. And when I explained that to my wife, she was all on board as well. But every time I speak with any of you guys just kind of reiterate that. So it's pretty nice. I got to be honest.
Hear. And I do agree. That's a point of strength, and something I'm really proud of as being one of the docs here at Metro is that we're trying to pay attention to the whole person.
Absolutely.
Including the social world and the barriers, right, that so many of us and so many of our patients face.
Perfect. Thank you so much. That was really, really, really good. He's Dr. Eric Berko. I'm Maddie Wills. And of course, if you're experiencing fears and phobias that interfere with daily life, the MetroHealth team is here to help. Call 216-778-4428 to book an appointment today. Doctor, thank you again. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.